Hello everyone, thank you so much for joining me here today. If you're new, I'm Amanda. Welcome to the channel where we are all about shattering the mental health stigma. If you haven't already, please make sure you make sweet, sweet love to that subscribe button. Give the bell a few kisses so you're not missing any of this content designed to help you with your mental health or help you help someone else. Or in the case of today, just rip my heart straight out of my chest, throw it in a blender, pour it on the floor, and just spit on it. Okay, as you can see, I'm a bit emotional. But as many of you might have heard, MatPat from the Theorist channels is saying goodbye to the internet, and who knows what he's doing at this point. I haven't watched the video. I figured I'd watch it here with you guys, have a little bit of conversation about it, not only because, as I will explain in a minute, MatPat has just been a big part of my life for the past decade, but because I think it could be indicative of something bigger in the landscape of content creators, particularly here on YouTube. But just seeing this, my reaction is I can't go on like this. I just can't do this, MatPat. How am I supposed to get through this life without you? I watch a lot of The Bold and Beautiful, so I can get very dramatic. But before I jump into doing this kind of reaction analysis hybrid, hearing what he has to say, kind of giving my feedback, talking a little bit about, like I said, what this could mean in the grand scheme of content creators. I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of background as to why his channels are so important to me. First and foremost, MatPat was the first YouTuber that I really became loyal to. Game theory was my first bit of exposure to the idea of YouTube channels being more like a TV channel as opposed to just random videos. So at this point, YouTube was kind of transitioning more into it being about the creators as opposed to us just finding random videos that we like. It was the Link is Dead theory from Majora's Mask from the Game Theorist channel that really drew me in. And it shifted my mind in many ways to accept that it was okay to psychoanalyze things because people had given me crap for so long about that I kind of shamed myself for it. And it gave me the okay to do that, which turned out to be a great strength when you decide later that you want to pursue a degree in psychology. And I think in a way, this video kind of planted that seed. But on an even more important note, during the 10 years since I watched that video, I just been through so much and I spiraled so hard, as a lot of you guys know, that almost ended in me stepping off of a ledge and I almost lost my life to suicide. And there's only a handful of content creators that I really resonated with, that I really connected with their personalities, their content. MatPat was one of them. And his content, along with a couple of other creators like Dead Meat, really helped me through that darkness and really gave me kind of a safe place to land when things just felt overwhelming and I needed an escape and I needed a voice to listen to that felt friendly, that felt familiar, that felt like they cared in some weird way. And I know that sounds kind of weird, but I really feel like he has always cared about his community and cared about the people involved. So this is gonna hit hard, but I do want to kind of share this moment with you and, like I said, talk about what this could mean in a grander sense. So let's do this.
It's not clickbait. On March 9th, I will be hosting my last Theory episode, at which point I will be handing off the channels to someone else. There it is. That's it. Send tweet. We're all done here. That's all you need to know, right? Oh, wow. Forgive me, by the way, if I'm a little bit more disorganized than usual. Normally, I would want to script out something like this pretty precisely. But with an announcement like this, I wanted to bring it back to just us. There's no one else in the room. There's no teleprompters. There's no nothing. It's just the way that this whole thing started. It's a conversation between us.
I mean,
and sorry that I keep getting emotional about this. I'll try not to, but it's a big deal. You know, like, if you think about it, this channel is Steph and my first child, really. Before we had Ollie, before we had Skip, CatBat, like, it was this. This was our baby. This channel has been going for 13 years. I think in total it's somewhere around like 1,200 theories, and only half of those are FNAF. Shocking. I know, we actually did stuff that wasn't FNAF related.
My child.
But this has been a literal third of my life. And I'm gonna miss you. I'm gonna miss this.
See what I mean?
I value what we have here. I value this conversation, this openness, this relationship that we share. And I'm sad that I won't be able to see you every week. Which then I guess prompts the question of like, why? Why am I doing this now? Why am I making this announcement today? Why am I walking away from the channels? Well, to be honest, it was Tom Scott. You can blame Tom Scott. Tom just did his farewell video and I'm like, well, he was able to do it. I want to be able to fly away in a helicopter. Obviously, that's not it. But really, my reasons for making this announcement today is probably largely the same as Tom's reasons, or Seth Everman's, or Captain Sparkles, or Papa Meats, or Stampy Longheads. Like, there's a lot of these videos that are coming out these days, and there's going to be a lot more happening throughout this year. Steph and I have known this video would be coming for the last 3 years. We weren't sure it was necessarily going to be today. We didn't know exactly when it would fall, but we knew it was going to happen eventually. That's why over the last couple years, we've been staffing up so much. That's why we partnered with a larger company to help run the channels. That's why we've been spending so much time outside of this box, training up the team to make the best videos that they can. Because we knew that we couldn't do this forever. We knew that, honestly, we didn't want to do this forever. For as much as I love you, and I love overthinking things, and I love theorizing, I don't love late nights. I don't love the fact that Steph and I have been work first for over a decade, where I'm sitting down at dinner with my best friend, and we're talking about business logistics, or we're talking about animatronic toes. I miss the days where I could just sit down on the couch with her and play video games, and it's not for content. Or I'm playing a game and I'm not thinking about what theories are gonna come out of that. I miss it. So that's a big reason. That was a big one right there. But also just the internet's changing. My life has changed in the last 13 years. I mentioned Dolly before. He's the coolest little dude, and he's getting older by the minute. And I watch him, and he is so much fun, and he is so much smarter than I was when I was his age. He also probably knows the FNAF lore better than I do, which is a problem that I should probably address at some point. But honestly, I want to be able to spend more time with him. Another sad fact of the matter is I'm getting older. I'm 37 now. The other day, I actually had to Google my own age. And you know that when you have to start like doing math in your head to calculate how old you are over the hill, my friends. Though to be fair,
I feel triggered by that. Not literally, but I understand that more than most of you could possibly know. I've done that. I've done the math of my age before, but first of all, good on him for showing his emotions and being transparent about that, because I love seeing the normalization of men crying. I hear so often here in the community people saying it's not socially acceptable, and I see that that's shifting now, and that's really important. And when these creators that have such a huge following are transparent and do talk about it, do show it, that's really amazing. I love that he's holding space for his community. Like I said, I've always felt very connected being part of that community, and I feel like he's really holding space for that so we can all grieve together, right? But when our favorite creators, be it YouTubers or musicians or actors or painters or whatever, when their journeys come to an end, a part of our journeys come to an end as well. And I'll touch a little bit more. I think he's probably going to go into more detail about this burnout, and that's what I want to talk about, but I don't want to go on and on for too long, so I'm going to save that and kind of go into it a bit more as this progresses. But that's something I definitely want to talk about, and that's part of what I think is the bigger landscape going on here. As he was saying, there's a lot of creators that are walking away. This is almost a trend right now, and I think I know why.
Fair, to my credit, I think I'm like the only 37-year-old out there who has an unironic appreciation of Skibbity Toilet. Then again, maybe that's the problem, right? Like, maybe that's not a good thing. And honestly, because This is all about us being honest. There is a bit of a selfish side to this. When you think about it, there's only really 2 ways to step away from a YouTube channel. You either just decide the day that you stop uploading and you're like, I'm done, or you just keep uploading videos from now until the heat death of the universe, and you watch as your relevance slowly dies or your passion slowly dies. And for me and my journey in this place, I always wanted to go out on a high note. And when you stop and look at the last year, this has been the best year in the theorist lifespan ever. Like, no joke. It is our highest view year. It is the year where we launched Style Theory and immediately put our foothold in a brand new space, and that took off, and now we're one of the top style and fashion channels on YouTube. And that kind of completes the trifecta of, hey, we now have a top channel in 4 different verticals that are completely different, and no other YouTuber really has ever been able to do it to that scale. That's amazing. Yeah. This is also the year where I was able to meet you guys at our Broadway show. I was able to play at the PGA and show that, hey, YouTubers aren't particularly good at golf, but they can make your event relevant for like a couple of minutes. It was also the year that I got to host the Streamy Awards, and it wasn't cringe. I mean, to be fair, the Streamy Awards are always a little bit cringe, but it was the right amount of cringe. When I pull up videos of all my favorite creators, and I watch them, and all of a sudden I start hearing people just casually dropping, that's just a theory.
It's just a theory, a game theory.
Now this is just a theory, people.
At the end of the day, it's just a game theory.
That's just a theory. A Freebirds theory.
Also a lot of lore, so if you're a big theory head, proceed at your own risk.
I did not know about this theory.
That's a theory.
That right there, that is incredible. That's the note that I want to leave on. And that's how you just know it's the right time. All of those reasons coming together, saying, hey, this is the moment. And that's hard to say, because change is scary. Change is hard.
Oh my God, yeah.
But sometimes the right decision isn't the easy decision. The easy decision would just be to carry on doing this and do FNAF part 332.
Please don't.
But that wouldn't be the right decision. I think the best way to explain it is with a video game analogy. Feels appropriate, right? Whoa, it's game theory, ha! Did it. Check the game part of it off. But the way I like to think about it is Earthbound. I think I've made it pretty clear over the years that that is, without question, my favorite game of all time. Sans' Nest, all that, you're all familiar with that. But what you might not be familiar with at this point is how the game ends. At the end of Earthbound, after you save the world, everything opens up to you. You can revisit every single location that you've been to. You can talk to every NPC that you met on your journey. And it's this incredible moment as a gamer. You see just how many lives have been impacted thanks to your journey. And then after spending as much time as you want talking to all those people, you end up back home. You go back to where it all began, where you were just a kid waking up in bed and starting your adventure. And even though your mom's there and your dog's there and your weird telephone dad's there, it feels different somehow. Like, sure, this is still a place of love and acceptance and comfort and security, but you just don't quite fit anymore. Because you just traveled the world. You made all these new friends. You are different. You grew up. And your relationship to this place grows up. It evolves. In case you couldn't tell, I'm Ness, which I guess would also mean that I'm also Sans. But I was also Ness in the FNAF movie, which just opens up all sorts of weird canon. Slap a thumbnail on that one. So anyway, there you have it. That is why I'm leaving. I hope you can understand. But that obviously begs the question of, like, what happens to the channels? Well, for the next 10 weeks, we're going to have ourselves a big old going away party. If Unis Annus taught us anything, it taught us that you probably shouldn't use urine for a personal sauna. But if Unis Annus taught us two things, one was to not soak in your own urine, but two was to appreciate the time that you have left. So that's why over the next 10 weeks, we're gonna have a bunch of theories that are gonna be a lot of fun, revisiting old favorites, getting some closure on things. We're gonna see some familiar faces, a lot of awesome stuff. Although to be fair, I think it's 9 weeks, and I think we counted this one as week 1. That was stupid of us. That, my friends, is how you wind up getting Wario being 10 feet tall. Mathematical rigor. Should have double-checked the numbers. So I have 9 theories left on each of the channels, but we're going to call them MatPat's Final 10 because that just sounds better. At which point then on March 9th, we're going to have that big going-away celebration, MatPat's Final Theory, and I just dust away. I stand astride my Music Man, and I just whip a nay-nay off into the distance.
There's a visual for you. there's a visual for all of us. That facial expression is cracking me up. But, you know, I think it's super admirable that he's going out on his terms. He's quitting while he's ahead. And he'll be remembered as the MatPat that we all know and love, you know, as opposed to someone who has long since burned out, who kept grinding, who has a bazillion controversies under his belt. This man is just so pure. Maybe I'm just not connected enough to the social sphere of these sorts of things, but I have never heard a single controversy about this man. I've never heard anything negative about him. Never once. But I kind of also have the hopes that this will act as a wake-up call to the people that think being a successful content creator is easy. That's this easy career option. And my son struggles with that so hard, and he's talked about that in terms of MatPat or Mr. Beast or some of the other creators that he frequently watches. He's always said, oh yeah, I want to do that. And I think that's something a lot of our youth have been gravitating toward, but they think that they just spend an hour making a video and then lounge around living the good life. But as MatPat was describing, no, it consumes you. When you're at a place where you're trying to build your channel, you're constantly focusing on, okay, well, what can I do to bring in more community? And then once you get the community, you're constantly thinking, okay, what can I do to keep them interested? What can I do to not let them down? What can I do to stay relevant in some sense? And some people just do it for fun, and some people really want to make a career out of it. But regardless of what your reasoning is, for the most part, it turns in to this all-consuming thing. Like, you never clock in, clock out like you do with most typical jobs. It's something that is always weighing on your mind. And like you said, then you're sitting there at dinner when you should be spending time with your family, missing out on these important moments because now you're just planning content, or you're thinking about content. I'm not gonna lie, there have been times when I have laid awake at night thinking what my next reaction should be, or did I sound profound enough? Did I have anything profound to say in my most recent reaction, or did I just sound empty, or am I burning out? Do I need a break? There's these thoughts constantly in your head. Like, it's kind of mental gymnastics all the time of trying to figure out what to do, how to do it, when to do it, etc. And it can really start to weigh on you after a while.
But then something special happens. Do the channels go away with me? No, actually. I've always thought that anyone can be a theorist, right? If you are passionate about a topic and you love to overthink it and over-research it, then congratulations, you're a theorist. And that could range from, hey, I have family recipes that I'm constantly looking to refine, to, hey, I want to create the perfect fantasy sports team. Because here's the thing, sports pros, at the end of the day, if you are in the statistics and numbers and doing calculations to see if your team won or lost, you're just playing a glorified Dungeons and Dragons game. You break two, you're one of us, my friends. And sure, game theory is a format that I created. It's a show with this very excitable host who makes a lot of cringy dad jokes and says the word lore a lot. But at the end of the day, it's more than just the host. It is a show. It is a format. And in a broader sense, it is a state of mind. It's a way of thinking and approaching the world around you. It's more than just the host. And when you think about it, not a lot of YouTube channels function that way. We're special in that regard. Like, you're not going to be able to get another Markiplier stepping into the Markiplier channel. And you're never going to be able to recreate Jenna Marbles. And to be honest, you're never going to get another MatPat either. But you can have another game theorist. You can have another film theorist or food theorist or style theorist. I think in a lot of ways, we almost function kind of like the Doctor Who of YouTube, where as one host fades away, a new one kind of respawns in their place. And they're able to put their own unique spin and flavor on the format and make it their unique thing. You have eras of the different theorist channels. And so, you know, my era is fading away and someone new is coming in. Maybe this is the David Tennant to Matt Smith transition, right? That was good, solid series of episodes right there. So who then is going to be taking over the channels? Well, I don't know if you've noticed this, but fewer and fewer of the words that I'm saying in any given episode are actually mine. If you go down to the credits, you can actually see in the description that there are certain names that have been appearing more and more frequently.
Throughout the last year,
I'm listed on every single
I'd
one as the
say.
writer because I touch every single script, I polish it into my voice. But in all honesty, the bulk of what I'm saying is coming from someone else. It's their research, it's their work. Why should they have to filter their creativity through my voice? I've always envisioned these channels as a place where we could spotlight all sorts of creators. I mean, it even goes back to the original URL of this channel, right? It isn't game theory, it was always the game theorists, because this was a place where you could find a lot of like-minded creators, all with a passion for gaming and education. That's why we had the partner shows like Gaijin Goomba with Culture Shock, or Drake with Smash History, or Ryder with A Brief History, or Austin with The Science, and Lee with Breakdown. They were all here because we all had a similar goal: to educate people through the lens of gaming. And then YouTube pivoted and then made it so that way doing a channel in that style doesn't really work anymore. But we still try to keep that ethos alive by making sure that we're regularly covering small indie projects. Stuff like OnlyCans, like Mandela Catalog, like OWO. OWO? See? I learned. But if we're doing that for all these other creators, why aren't we doing it for the creators on our own staff who have been in the trenches doing the research, writing these words to deliver to you over the last couple of years? I have been fortunate. I have been so blessed to have this platform available to me that you've given me over the last 13 years. But I think now it's time to pass it on to the next generation. It's time to give someone else a shot. But I realize that I'm getting off track here. So back to the question, who's taking over? First off, it's not going to one person, but rather 4. I would not wish my schedule on anyone. Like, sure, I'm willing to not sleep for the last 13 years of my life, but I feel like as old man YouTube passing this along to the next generation, I should probably do my best to try and make it more sustainable for them. It's also going to people that you're already familiar with. You've seen them showing up in shorts. You've seen them here on the couch with me for GT Live. You've sometimes seen them washing their hair with me in my own shower. Don't read too much into that, but it is accurate. Most importantly, though, they're each an expert in their own individual subject matter, and they've been spearheading the creative of the channels for the better part of the last year. And I think what's maybe the most fascinating about all of this is that each of the 4 of them come to us from a completely different angle. You know, so for instance, you have Lee, right? Lee's gonna be taking over film theory, and Lee has been with us for 10 years. 10 years, it's crazy. I believe he was actually editor number 3 for the channels. We had Ronnie, and then we had Ryder, Foot of a Ferret, and then we had Lee. I think his first theory that he ever worked on was Rosalina's Peach's daughter, Peach is Dead. One of my all-time favorite episodes that we've ever done on the channel. And over time, he rose up. He had his own show on the channel here. He had Breakdown, which were these just beautiful documentaries that were edited in such an incredible way. And since then, he's been spearheading a lot of the creative on both the writing and the visual side. And then, of course, you have Amy over on Style Theory. And Amy is actually a very different case here. When she first approached us, I think it was 6 years ago, she didn't know about the channels. All she knew was that she wanted to learn everything that she could about digital video, and that Theorist was kind of the place that you went to learn that stuff. Like, we were the best when it comes to analytics and optimization and programming and things like that. She got in and she just devoured everything that we threw at her. So much so that she eventually got to the point where she was so good that she was consulting the largest mobile game company in the world based off of the stuff that we were working on here in studio. It's incredible. And all of that while being responsible for packaging somewhere around like 500 episodes across all the channels. And then she helped me and Steph brainstorm Style Theory for 2 years before the channel eventually launched, hoping that maybe one day she would be able to rise into the hosting role for it. And now here it is. And then, of course, you have Santi and Tom. Santi over on Food Theory and Tom over here on Game Theory. And interestingly enough, they both grew up watching Game Theory. We were their childhood show, which, to be fair, just shows how old we are. Santi would eventually go work at Mythical with Rhett and Link before coming here, where he is bravely spearheading Food Theory and letting me mercilessly make fun of all of his recipes. He's much better than I give him credit for. I just like giving him a hard time. And then Tom, he worked at Disney and Fox, but he knew all along that he wanted to be here, right? Like, this was his aspirational goal. He wanted to write here. He emailed us a cold email outreach. We just miraculously saw it, decided to audition him, and he crushed it. His first episode that he worked on was actually watching every single installment of the Pokemon anime to calculate Pikachu's level. And to be fair, that was his pitch. Like, I have asked people to do some crazy things in the past, but not even I'm that brutal. Like, you can only watch Team Rocket blast off so many times, but he's like, this is an episode I'm passionate about. I think I'm gonna knock it out of the ballpark, and I'm gonna show you how committed I am. And he has been so committed ever since. So committed, in fact, that I told him, hey, if you're joining the channels, you do realize that you're going to have to read every single FNAF book. And he's like, boom, he did it. And we're up here going crazy in the FNAF attic. But not only did he read every FNAF novel, he also read every single Hello Neighbor book. Yeah, he went that far. Currently, he's working his way through Bendy because the new movie's coming up. If nothing else, I think that really proves his level of commitment and also his appropriate level of insanity. He's a bit off the cuff at times. Like, I don't know if you saw on a recent GT Live, but Tom was here on the couch with me, and he actually denied that the moon existed, which was a choice.
Main character from the chat says, that sounds like somebody who doesn't have a flag on the moon.
I mean, that's if you believe it's even there.
The moon?
I don't think he actually believes that, but if he does, we're going to get some weird Majora's Mask theories, let me tell you. When I go,
Yay, more Majora's Mask theories. That is something special. You know, I feel like I've been going through this kind of gamut of emotion of no, you can't leave. And as he was saying earlier, change can be really difficult, and I feel myself really resisting it because, like I said, I have in some way attached to his personality and his persona, specifically in him as a person. So making that transition to saying, okay, now I'm going to just move on, you know, I'm just going to let these other people take over that role in my heart is very difficult, and he is making a very good pitch for it and explaining why these people do sound incredibly worthy of these positions. It's just very hard for me to genuinely let something go when it's been such a big part of my life and it's been such a positive influence in my life. It's very hard for me to let it go. But he's so humble in the way he speaks about his colleagues and his team and even us. There's just such a humble nature, and I find that beautiful. Like I said, I've never really dove into his personal life other than knowing that he's married and has his kids, but he's, like I said, just such a pure soul, and it's a really hard pill to swallow. But I want to touch a little bit here on the burnout. I'm gonna start a little bit here, and then I'll finish this off, and then we'll talk a little bit more about it. But it really makes me happy when people know when to walk away, and he was talking about that. Back in the early 90s, I was the biggest JTT girl, and it blew people's minds at the time that he quit Hollywood at the peak of his fame, right? But he, like MatPat, had other things that he wanted to focus on and experience and maybe explore. And I think that's really respectable. And while it can be a bit confusing, because I was just saying I really struggle to let things go, I'm a big proponent of letting things go when your heart's just not in it anymore. And he was talking about how it hasn't been his voice for the past year. And I had said that right before he had stated I didn't know that. But I could tell that it had shifted, and it just felt like it wasn't as much about him anymore, that it had just become the voice of the writers. And not that there's anything wrong with that, but I definitely did feel the shift. But being famous or being monetarily well off is not the end-all be-all that people try to make it out to be. It's not about numbers. It's about passion, and it's about fulfillment. And success is meaningless if we're burned out, and if we have to walk away from something that we put our heart and soul into, feeling defeated because we held on for too long and it fell apart, or like you said, you eventually become irrelevant, or whatever the case is, or you just stop having the passion so your content starts to suffer. That's just going to affect you when you do have that life, when you do get back to your life. When he was making the analogy about the video game, when you do get back to your life, you're not going to be able to enjoy it quite as much, because you're going to say, well, I kind of ruined my own legacy in some way. Instead of walking away like a legend, I tainted that legacy by doing something that my heart wasn't in. So let's finish this off, and then we'll talk a bit more.
go out at this point, I am recognized at least 5 times. It's crazy. It's a really high number at this point. And it's a fascinating split because 50% of the time it's like, oh my gosh, you're MatPat. You were my childhood. I loved watching your FNAF theories. And I'm always like, well, you know, FNAF's still going. And they're like, what? No way. And we talk about the new game and it's always really fun. But the other half is, oh my gosh, you're MatPat. You are my childhood. I'm watching you right now. I loved your most recent theory. That's awesome. That's such an honor. I have been so honored to be a part of all of your lives. But I think it's time for someone else to have that honor. I think it's time for someone else to get to ruin some childhoods. And that just kind of leaves us with one final question, right? Which is, what about me? You know, where do I go? Do I just retire to a beach somewhere? Do I whip a nene off into the distance?
You keep saying that.
I'll still be here. Obviously, first off, we've got our final 10 episodes, like I said, so that's, well, it wasn't 10 episodes. However many episodes are left between now and March 9th, we got those. I'm going to be on GT Live from now until the foreseeable future, probably until the end of the summer. That feels about right. And then we have the big going away video on March 9th. After that, I, stand aside as Santi, Lee, Amy, and Tom step up and take over the hosting role. But I'm still going to be here. I'm still going to be alongside the creative directors talking about programming, brainstorming ideas for upcoming episodes. That's awesome. I love that. I don't want to give that up. But the other cool thing about this is that it opens up the door for me to turn the script. For the last 13 years, I've been commenting on other people's IP, but now that I'm stepping out of those roles, I get to create the IP. Still as a part of Theorist, but I get to create things that are going to challenge those new hosts of the channel. Things that I've had in the back of my mind from years of studying media that I can now make a reality, and the channels can comment on them. Things like, for instance, I have a lo-fi mystery series that I think you're really gonna dig. It's basically like if you took a lo-fi channel and applied an ARG narrative to it, it becomes lore-fi. I am so stoked about this. The music is sounding really good. The animations are coming together really well. That's going to be launching in a couple weeks. We'll see if Lee over on Film Theory is going to be able to solve it. In April, I'm actually going to be coming back onto Style Theory to host a giant fashion show that we're doing there. We all collectively had this thought of like, hey, online brands, online influencers are coming up with their own apparel lines. Why is there no place to showcase that sort of stuff? And then it hit us like, hey, we have a style and fashion channel. Why aren't we doing it ourselves? Creators in Fashion by Style Theory, that is coming to you in April, hosted by me. Some of the time that I'm not hosting the channels, I'm going to be practicing my runway walk. Because let me tell you, if I'm sashaying down the runway, if I'm stomping the runway, it's not going to be pretty right now. So I need to practice that a little bit. There's also this animation show that we did a pilot for in like the middle of last year. It's basically like if you took Gravity Falls but aged it up and made it about adulting. It's really, really solid. And also there's this video game idea that I want to do for like so long that I've never had the opportunity to really like dive into and make reality. But now it's my chance to step into the role of Scott Cawthon and challenge the new game theorist. There's always been the memes about, are Scott Cawthon and I the same person? Not yet. But who knows, maybe starting later this year. And those are just the immediate things that I have on my to-do list because I want to make fun, cool things for you. And even if it's not a weekly episode, I still want to give those things to you because I think you'll like them. You matter to me. You are so important to me. Every single one of those people who stop me on the street, it's an honor, right? It's interesting. Because of this whole transition, I've been thinking a lot about my time on these channels and the evolution that we've gone to together. In the beginning, right, I was kind of like the edgy older brother where I would talk about like, oh, did you know that Link is dead? And let's make some boob jokes. And then at a certain point, I evolved into Dad Pat, right? I became a little bit more mature. I had the team around me. I had to be more careful about who I was saying was dead on a regular basis. Instead of talking about boobs, I ended up talking about Luigi's bulge. That felt like the right decision. At this point, I think I'm kind of evolving into a grandpa Pat, for lack of a better term. And just like your grandparents, hopefully cool grandparents, but just like a grandparent, you don't get to see me all the time. And I don't get to see you all the time. And maybe we call and talk to each other every once in a while. But at the end of the day, that grandpa loves getting to see you. Maybe he shows up at a special event. Maybe he shows up at a holiday. Maybe he shows up at the Theory Wear fashion show. Who knows? But he so looks forward to seeing you. And the love that he has for you, it doesn't go away. That grandpa is so proud of you. And he cherishes the relationship that you've had so much. And he is so honored to be a part of your life, to have been a part of helping you grow and helping you experience the world. And he looks forward to seeing you at the next event. And if you see him on the street, we'll hang out. And hopefully he brings you cool, fun gifts. I know this is going to sound cheesy. And I know the internet will probably rake me over the coals for crying, for one, but
I'll beat them. I will beat them.
I do. You're not just numbers. You're not just ad impressions. You're not just merch sales. What you have done for me, and from everyone I talk to, what I've done for you, is special. It's special. When I was in middle school, I had this goal of making the world a better place because I had been a part of it. It didn't have to be big. It didn't have to be curing cancer. But I wanted there to have been a ripple impact. Just because I was there. Butterfly effect and all that. We've done it.
You've done it.
I think we've been able to achieve something great here. You have taken me on the wildest, craziest 13-year ride of my life. And I'm so grateful. So, Grandpa Pat is going to sign out now. And I'll be around for a couple more weeks. I'll be living around the house for a while. We'll have a big family reunion celebration. Then I'll go off to my little shack in the woods, my retirement home down in Florida, and I'll pop in every once in a while. Anyway, at this point in my notes, I had it written that we're going to start a countdown clock of that final 10 episodes, final 9 episodes, so start that. I don't know what it's going to look like yet. Hopefully the editors don't rip off Unasanas too much. If they do, I hope they change it. And with that, I'm going to say, for one of the final times.
Oh, no.
Not the final time, but one of the final times. As always, my friends, remember, it's just a theory. A game theory. Thank you. Thank you for watching.
Indeed. I can't say that I've watched a lot of farewell videos, but that was the most moving farewell I've ever heard in my life. There was just so much admiration and respect, and I can't tell you how much it meant, not just because of him personally, but because I often do feel like a number 81794 to be specific. I often feel like I'm just a number to everyone, and I don't expect, this creator with 18 million or whatever his count is of subscribers to see me or to single me out or to give me some special privileges or something. But like I said, his content was there for me in a very dark time, and thus by extension he was there for me in a very dark time. And you said you wanted to change the world, and maybe you changed the world because there's somebody that's in it that might not have been, had they not had that escape, that comfort. So thank you for that. Am I the only one that noticed, by the way, that the team that's taking over, it was SALT. It spelled out salt, and that kind of made me giggle a little bit. But I think there's a couple of things that are really important to touch on that I think can be relatable to everyone, not just content creators, but just people as a whole. But I do want to touch on the issue of content creators and burnout and whatnot, because in the world of content creation, success often does come with a very heavy price, and that's burnout, where he's talking about how he hadn't slept in 13 years and how he sacrificed so much to make this content, running 4 channels and doing all of these other things. Nobody sees how that can affect you behind the scenes, you know? And our hero here, once fueled by passion, they find themselves trapped in this relentless cycle of creating and uploading and meeting deadlines and trying to figure out what their next step is, or trying to figure out where to put their energy as not to stretch themselves too thin. And eventually I think they start seeing themselves as machines, or that other people start seeing them as machines. Actually, I want to share something here real fast to drive that point home. This was a comment that Matthew Santoro, who's another really amazing YouTuber, this is a comment that he got over on his account a while ago. This is, "Did you quit again? All I see are reruns from years back. Love your stuff, but if you quit again, let us know so I can remove this page and find someone who is mentally stable and keep going, quitting, not quitting, every time you have issues with ratings." First and foremost, content creators don't owe anyone anything. MatPat does not owe us weekly episodes, even if he stayed with it. Matthew Santoro is not obligated to continue creating content, and I know him. I interviewed him here on the channel, so I've talked to him, and that wasn't his problem. It wasn't issues with ratings. He was struggling with his mental health, and people were not holding space for that. So there's these people that think that content creators owe them something just because we care. And I feel the same way. This community is a community. You're not a number. I will echo the same thing that MatPat said. You're not a number. I care about you, but I have to care about myself, and I have to care about my own mental well-being. And I feel like people often forget that content creators aren't machines. There's this constant stress and anxiety about losing relevance and upsetting or disappointing your audience. Feeling the pressure to do something unique and profound day after day, week after week. And this doesn't just affect bigger creators like MatPat. This affects all of us. This affects all of us that are creating this to try and find that work-life balance, or hobby work-life, however you do it. For me, there have been times, like I've said, where I'm up in the middle of the night second guessing something that I said, or being afraid that I didn't represent something in the right way, or trying to think about the next thing that I should be doing, and it can become so super exhausting. But I think that we're gonna start seeing this trend, and this is what I wanted to touch on. I think we're gonna start seeing a big shift when it comes to content creators, because with all due respect, I don't think a lot of them that are coming in now, like with this new generation that's coming after in the footsteps of people like MatPat, I don't feel like they are really genuinely truly prepared for what this lifestyle entails. It has become so common for our youth to want to be YouTubers. They want to be famous YouTubers or TikTokers or whatever the case is, and they don't realize what that really entails. That if you're not careful, you can sell your soul to this world. When you are sitting there looking at your phone during family dinner, or during a date, or during a time that you could just take 10 minutes of meditation for yourself, when you're sitting there seeing how many likes your most previous post got, or how many views your most recent video got, that's a sign that this is not going to be conducive for your mental health. Having a channel when you can't turn that off, and there is a certain level of, you have to put in the work, and you have to put in the energy, and you have to put in the effort, and that's absolutely true, but you also still have to have that balance. And he was talking about the fact that he stopped being able to have that balance. I don't think a lot of people understand what it truly takes. I think that a lot of our OG creators and stuff are starting to walk away. I wasn't familiar with the ones that he'd listed, but I do know a couple of others that are walking away. Some of the even mid-sized creators like me are walking away because the expectations can get to be so overwhelming, and the responsibilities can get to be so overwhelming that it consumes your life. You feel responsible for, in my case, I feel responsible oftentimes for the community, or I feel really pressured to make sure that I'm getting the content out for my sponsors that are supporting the channel, or that I'm reaching out to each person as they reach out to me, and it can become so heavy. And we have to know how to take care of ourselves. We have to know how to say, hey, I do have this passion, and maybe this is a hobby for me. Maybe I don't ever need to make a career out of it. Maybe I just want to make videos for fun. That's okay. Or we can say, hey, I did what I came to do. And I relate to what he was talking about so much. Far before I started this channel, I said, I want to make a difference in the world. I want every single person I come in contact with to know that they are seen, that they are heard, that they are loved, that they are worthy. I want to leave this world someday, not today. I want to leave this world a better place than I found it. And right now, I feel like this community is achieving that. But there will come a day when I'm gonna feel like, you know what? I've put out what I need to put out. I've said what I needed to say. I've shared what I need to share. And it's time to let go. And maybe that'll be at 100,000 subscribers. Maybe that'll be at 1,000,000 subscribers. It doesn't matter. Whoever needs to see the content will see it. And whoever needed to be part of MatPat's journey was part of it. And that's the beautiful thing, is we have to be able to know when to let go. And I think, like I said, we can learn a lot from this. Even if we're not content creators, we have no desire to be content creators, I think we can learn a lot from this, because when we're not feeling something anymore, be it a job or a career or even a project you once held dear, it's okay to close that chapter of your life. It's not a failure. That does not equate failure to close a chapter. That's indicative of evolution. You're evolving, and maybe you pass the torch to someone else, or maybe you change the delegation of responsibilities, or maybe you change the dynamics of your role or relationship. The dynamics have to change. Your role has to change. And that doesn't mean that you love the people any less. So if you have to walk away from, say, a relationship that's not serving you, or a job that's just not making you happy, that you don't feel passionate about it anymore, that doesn't mean you're a failure. And it doesn't mean that everything is over. It just means that it's changing, that it's growing, that it's evolving, that you're evolving. So instead of holding on to things, embracing the change when it's uncomfortable, and knowing when it's time to move on, when it's time to move forward. And sometimes, like he was talking about, you do get to go back to your home, but it's different now. It's going to be different, and that's okay. And as much as this really broke my heart, I do support him. I do understand, and I genuinely hope that he finds what he's looking for, and I hope that he is able to spend more time with his family, and he finds that fulfillment and finds that balance, and finds the dynamics that work best for this chapter of his life. And just for fun, that's just a theory. But thank you so much for all the years of support that you didn't even realize you were giving me. Thank you so much for all of the content, MatPat. There's so many of us that are so appreciative. You have our full support in everything you do. And while it might be challenging to give the channels a try after you leave, give the newbies a shot. You know, they're not newbies, but to us who are watching the videos, you know, they're the new faces, and to give that a shot is really difficult for some of us, but I'll do my best, and I will always support the channel, the community. And I just, like I said, I want you guys to think about the fact that whether it's me or MatPat or another content creator that you love, we're only human, and we can only do what we can do. And if we're behind schedule, or we decide to take some time off like Matthew did, we're doing the best we can, and we're showing up the best we can. But if you are a content creator, remember that you matter and your mental health matters. And if you need to take time off, that's fine. If you need to quit entirely, that's fine. If you need to shift things, that's fine, because mental health for all of us matters. As always, share your stories here. You can share your stories of what content creators have really affected you, have really inspired you, have really been there for you through your challenges. Thank you guys so much for holding space for me to go through this process. It was nice to be able to do this with a community, and I love you guys so much, and I'll see you soon. Mwah.